talk about the earnings radar. Century Plyboards, that's the stock on our radar, reported its first quarter numbers. Of course, there were challenges with labor shortage, heat wave, etc. Higher cost due to commissioning of a couple of their new plants. The stock is holding up mildly in the green because despite all of this, the revenues of the company grew by about 13%. The EBITDA was down 17%, and because of higher depreciation and finance costs, the net profit was down 61% as well. The company hasn't uploaded its presentation on the exchanges. Yes, the conference call tomorrow at 12 p.m. as well. So to that extent, it makes this conversation with Keshav extremely important. So let's get done with the basics first, Keshav. The overall revenue growth this time around was 13%, and it was a quarter marked by a lot of challenges, etc. as well. So if you could break up, what the volume growth across all your segments were, and what was the realization growth across, plywood, laminates, MDF, and particle board. If you could give us these basic details first.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I think, if you look at it from the point of view of overall quarter, we have done a very good job in a very subdued demand environment. In the plywood segment, you would have close to 15% revenue growth YOY after quite some time. In MDF, despite a substantial dip in realizations, we have a 25% value growth and plus more than 40% volume growth. In laminates, we have been flattish, and particle board, we have been flattish. But we are hopeful that in laminates, second half of the year, we will post a strong growth once the Andhra unit starts scaling up. It is taking a little longer to scale up. The particle board new unit is likely to come on board by the end of this current financial year, and we'll see a strong growth in particle board from that point onwards. So I think overall, we have done a fairly decent job in, like you said, a very challenging quarter.
Could you give us the volume and realization of each of the segments clearly? What was it in the first quarter for plywood, MDF, laminates, and particle board?
For plywood, year on year, the realization was slightly up, but it has been mainly driven by volumes. For laminates, both have been more or less flattish. Whereas for MDF, there is a delta because there has been a reduction in margins. As you know, we haven't posted the investor presentation yet, so I can't share too much of the detail at this point in time. But MDF has been driven by a substantial volume growth that has offset a drop in realizations because of competitive pressures. So a 25% value growth would have been on account of a 40% plus volume growth.
Hi Keshav, good morning. Nigel on this side, good to see you. Before we get back to your business, wanted to ask you, there's some unrest in Bangladesh. Any impact on your business or on the industry because of what's going on there?
Good morning. I don't think Bangladesh for us is a very small market. We export some laminates to it, but it is inconsequential in the overall scheme of things. So I don't think there's going to be any substantial impact on account of the disruption in Bangladesh on our business.
Okay, let's get that out of the way then. So let's focus on margins. Margins have skimmed down a little bit in the past quarter. And as we know, timber prices have surged in the last 12 months or so. What's the outlook on margins from here on? Because you're sounding optimistic on volume growth, though on realizations, it'll be, I think, a little bit difficult to push through price increases. What's the outlook on margins?
I think if we break this into different segments, in plywood, we have taken a price increase in June itself, and we're planning to take a further price increase in this quarter. In laminates, we have taken a price increase in the current quarter. In MDF, yes, the competitive pressure is there, but I think it has bottomed out. From here, margins should improve because realizations are likely to improve, and our Andhra unit is going to scale up. So as you know, the first quarter in any new unit is challenging. There are a lot of teething issues, but thankfully, those are behind us, and we are seeing Andhra ramping up quite rapidly. In laminates, we have been able to deliver on margins, but we have not been able to deliver on volumes. In H2 of the current year, we are confident that we'll deliver a very strong and robust growth in volumes alongside an increase in margins. So I think overall, we are well positioned. And as you see, our guidance for the year has been the margin guidance. We have pretty much been on track across all segments, whether it is plywood, laminate, MDF, or particle board. If you negate the impact of Andhra, in MDF, we are at 14% EBITDA margins, which is very close to the 15% guidance that we had given.
All right. Just to confirm this guidance, because you haven't uploaded the presentation, the conference call hasn't happened yet. If you could confirm this guidance for us, or is there likely to be a change? Earlier you had said revenue growth for this year would be upwards of 15%, plywood over 10% with margins of 12 to 14%, laminate over 20% with margins between 10 to 12%, and MDF over 40% with margins of 15%. Is there any likely change to this guidance, or you hold on to this?
No, we will hold on to this guidance, and we are fairly confident that we'll be achieving the same.
All right. And what about the capacity utilization? I mean, you did speak about a lot of capacities coming on board in the last couple of quarters, a few coming on board in this year itself. Where do you see this year at the end in terms of capacity utilization? You had a glide path of almost 80-85% over the next couple of years. That's 26-27. What we need to know about is 25.
I think, by the exit of this year, by Q4, we'll be at more than 50% capacity utilization in both the new MDF and the new laminate capacities.
All right. And 6,500 crores by FY27 at peak utilization on target, right?
Yes, very much.
Margins at that time?
We'll give you guidance as the year progresses.
All right, we take that point. Always a pleasure speaking with you. The street wanted to know a lot more about the business this time around, but you were limited by not having uploaded your presentation. But we get a sense that there has been some realization impact on MDF, and you hold on to your guidance.
Okay, all right, Keshav, thanks a lot for that. By the way, we need to get our eyes back onto the market. The Nifty Bank, the